you know? The first Alolan form conceived was Alolan Exeggutor. Out of the new Alolan forms, Exeggutor was one of the most discussed in the Pokemon fanbase due to its exaggerated design and dragon typing. Two prominent theories try to explain the Pokemon's switch to dragon type. One theory is that it's a possible reference to Dracena, a genus of plant whose name is derived from an ancient Greek word meaning dragon. Another theory proposes that Alolan Exeggutor could be based on the Coca, a monster from Hispanic folklore that's often depicted as a dragon. This monster is also believed to be the namesake of the coconut, adding to the theory. Based on its Pokedex entries throughout the series, there's also speculation that Exeggutor is actually native to the Alola region despite first appearing in Kanto. Exeggutor's Pokedex entry in Pokemon Ruby says it originally came from the tropics, and Alola is the first region in the series that has a truly tropical climate. Pokemon Crystal also states that living in a good environment causes Exeggutor to grow lots of heads. Pokemon Sun's Pokedex says that Alola is the best environment for the Pokemon, and Alolan Exeggutor is shown to have an additional head on the end of its tail. Interestingly, a piece of official artwork for the Pokemon trading card game's Jungle expansion depicts an Exeggutor with an abnormally long body similar to its Alolan form, though this artwork was produced years before Sun and Moon were even announced. Sun and Moon also seems to reference a popular fan theory. Since the first generation of Pokemon, some players have theorized that Cubone, which is said to wear the skull of its dead mother, is actually a baby Kangaskhan whose parent had died. In Sun and Moon, if a Cubone calls for help while battling in the wild, there's a chance that a wild Kangaskhan will appear instead of another Cubone, and Marowak won't appear at all. For Sun and Moon, American fans also pointed out that Yungoos and its evolution Gumshoos had a noticeable resemblance to then-presidential candidate Donald Trump. In an interview with Game Informer, Pokemon series director and composer Junichi Masuda explained that any resemblance was completely unintentional, as the designs for both Pokemon had been finalized long before the games were announced. Pokemon Sun and Moon marked the first time that a new generation of Pokemon games weren't directed by either Junichi Masuda or Satoshi Tajiri. Shigeru Omori, who'd previously directed Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, was asked to direct the new titles in order to refresh the series. Masuda felt great difficulty when trying to break traditions that established the series, and wanted someone else to direct. He felt that a producer role would allow him to focus on the big picture, and steer the Pokemon brand as a whole rather than focus on a single game. While Masuda missed being hands-on and working on the game directly, he did contribute some Hawaiian-inspired compositions to Sun and Moon. Omori originally had difficulty directing Sun and Moon. He had a solid base to work from developing Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but with Sun and Moon, he had to start from scratch. Vehicles were planned to play a big role in the game at one point, with a Blastoise assisting a fire brigade and Machamps riding in the back of a pickup. These concepts were made when the team thought about how people and Pokemon would live together, but vehicles were slowly phased out in favor of the Pokemon Ride feature. Rather than make each game an improvement on its predecessor, Game Freak tries to treat each game as its own entity. They determine their goals and themes for that specific game and try to execute them as best as possible. The theme that led to the names Sun and Moon was life. The sun is the source of all life, while the moon has a profound effect on the rhythms of life, such as the tide of the ocean. Omori also wanted the theme to reflect the relationships between people. He was struck by the Earth's rotation around the sun and the moon's rotation around the Earth. All three influenced one another, and life flourished as a result. Omori had visited Hawaii on vacation multiple times before the game's development, and also observed that Hawaiians had a close connection with nature. He was inspired to capture the region's atmosphere, which had both the sun beating down in the day and the moon reflecting off the ocean at night. The name of the region Alola was chosen to express how this region was overflowing with life force. While he didn't elaborate, Omori was likely referring to the fact that Alola contains the word Ola, which is Hawaiian for life. There was no set process for designing the games as Pokemon. Different designers were allowed to follow their different processes. Some chose to adapt animals into Pokemon, and some based Pokemon on the landscape of the region itself. Other Pokemon were also designed for balancing purposes, to counter Pokemon that were considered too strong. The Alolan forms were intended to surprise players who'd been with the series for the entirety of its 20-year run. This is why only the original 150 Pokemon were considered for redesigns. A special demo version of Sun and Moon released worldwide in October 2016. In the demo, the player used a special Greninja with the ability Battle Bond. This allowed it to transform into Ash Greninja, a special form that debuted in the anime. The data for this Pokemon said it was encountered on October 17th, 2013. This is the date that Pokemon episode Kalos Where Dreams and Adventures Begin aired in Japan, the same episode that Ash got his Froakie. The demo was downloaded 3.5 million times in just 9 days, making it the most downloaded demo on the system. Sun and Moon went on to become the most pre-ordered games in Nintendo's history, as well as the fastest-selling Nintendo games in the Americas. This popularity wasn't without drawbacks, however. The demo was very quickly data mined, leading to a lot of information about the games being leaked before release. There are many other references and Easter eggs scattered throughout Sun and Moon. In the Hau'oloi Cemetery, the player can battle a Pokemon breeder whose only Pokemon is a Pikachu. The trainer's name is revealed to be Ikue, a nod to Japanese voice actress Ikue Otani, longtime voice actress of Pikachu in both the games and anime. During the Ghost-type Island trial, the player is tasked with searching for a Mimikyu in the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart. While searching the back room with the Pokefinder, a photo of Ash and Pikachu can be found on one of the walls. This is also the only instance where Ash appears in the mainline Pokemon games. After submitting a photo taken with the Pokefinder, one of the possible feedback comments the player can receive says 7.8 out of 10, too much water. This is a tongue-in-cheek reference to IGN's review of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which rated the games as 7.8 out of 10 and infamously cited too much water as one of the game's flaws. Sun and Moon also kept a tradition from past games. Though it may not be obvious, all 4 islands on the Alola region are named after colors. Ula Ula is Hawaiian for red, Akala means pink, Mele Mele means yellow, and Poni means purple. The islands are all based on a real-world Hawaiian island, and each is named after the official color of the island they're based on. These colors also seem to have influenced the design of the 4 Tapu legendaries, as well as Oricorio's styles. Most species in Sun and Moon possess an alternate hidden ability that can only be found very rarely. However, there are several Pokemon with hidden abilities that cannot be obtained in the game. This includes several legendary Pokemon such as Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, Oranguru, and Passimian, and the game's starters and their evolutions. What's particularly interesting is that Rowlet and Poplio's evolutionary lines possess hidden abilities that are completely unique to them. Since these abilities are inaccessible, they're actually completely unused in the game. Rowlet's hidden ability is Long Reach, which ignores any effects triggered by using moves that make physical contact, and Poplio's is Liquid Voice, which changes all sound-based attacks to water type. While only a handful of Pokemon can actually be seen walking around in Sun and Moon, every Pokemon in the games, including Mega Evolutions, has a walking, running, or flying animation, though most of these go unused. Similarly, while every Pokemon in Sun and Moon has a shiny version in the game's files, most of the game's legendary Pokemon and Ultra Beasts are locked to only ever be found in their regular form. Upon release, Sun and Moon contained a strange bug regarding the moves Memento and Parting Shot. If either of these moves was used as a Z move with the Darkinium Z in Battle Spot, it would cause the game to crash and automatically declare the user as the winner. Because of this, both moves were temporarily banned in Battle Spot. This glitch was fixed in the version 1.1 patch. Sun and Moon also contain unused text pertaining to a mystery gift received by playing Pokemon Go, and Pokemon Go is also listed as a possible location where Pokemon can first be met. At the time of this video, no such crossover feature between the games has been announced. As you might expect, such a popular game was also the target of piracy. Leaks of the game's code started circulating on the image board 4chan, submitted by an anonymous user. These leaks not only displayed Pokemon stats and move pools, but also leaked major story spoilers. Players were also able to get their hands on pirated copies of the game before release, resulting in a deluge of spoilers flooding social media. Nintendo's response was firm. Anyone who was found to have a pirated copy of the game had their 3DS permanently banned from online functionality, including accessing the eShop. The only way to circumvent this ban would be to buy an entirely new system. Some unscrupulous pirates managed to find a workaround, though, to buy a new console and use the 3DS's system transfer feature to transfer the ban from their old console to the new one. They would then return the new console to the store they bought it from. Anybody unfortunate to buy the returned console would then be locked out of online functionality.